Hey guys, Drifter here. Welcome to Modern Warfare in Depth. In today's episode, we're going to be reviewing the Fmj Perk, which is a weapon perk in Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019, a slight modification to your weapon, and despite showing up as damage on the chart, it doesn't actually increase the damage of your gun. Rather, it increases its ability to penetrate through walls, I guess technically meaning it'll deal more damage on the other side of walls compared to the weapon without this perk. Unfortunately, FMJ is almost certainly bugged, at least a little bit. There's some oddities and some bugs that I have to talk about in this episode that it's getting frustrating that every time I make an in-depth episode, I have to say that the thing I tested is bugged, but I keep on finding them. For the method of my testing, what I did is I loaded up my favorite small gunfight map, and I had either a friend or a subscriber stand on the other side of one of the thin metal crates, and I would shoot them through the wall at various angles, measure the results. I could test for exact damages in gunfight, and in TDM, where I can change the attachments on the weapons, I can do that using stun grenades and slowly lowering their health. I did this a lot, like a lot, and I went through a couple of guns and a bunch of different angles, and it effectively is like this. If I'm shooting directly at the wall, aiming directly at the person on the other side, the angle that I'm measuring is X on the screen. Shooting at the wall in my mind would be perfectly perpendicular, and then I move increasingly to the sides such that the angle gets smaller. And I know that the smaller the angle gets, the less damage the gun is going to do, because that's just how like physics and COD engine works. But I just wanted you to have this brief visual representation so you know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about X. The less directly I'm shooting at the wall, the smaller X is going to be. And the results I got was that when I tested the M4A1 with no FMJ, it had a base damage of 28, and this is the weapon that I tested the most stringently. 90 degrees and 60 were 24, 23 at 45, then decreasing slightly all the way down to 13 as the angle gets increasingly small. When I put FMJ on this weapon, it has the same base damage of course, but at the 90 degree angle it'll still deal 24, 24, and then still 24 at 45 degrees. At the 30 degree angle it'll go down very slightly, and then kind of baby steps down to what really isn't much lower than the base damage of 24 through the wall. So putting all of this into a calculator and using a little bit of my engineering skills that I still remember, the approximate formula for non-FMJ damage for an M4A1 is whatever your base damage is minus 4 times the sine of X plus 15. And I don't know why they put this plus 15 variable in there for the angle instead of just X, but that's kind of what they did. I think they wanted to add more to the angle so that it's not as extreme as you go sideways. And one of the weirder things that I think it's a stair-step function. For certain angles, it's just the flat damage no matter what. We're not even considering the sine. When it comes to using FMJ on the M4, it was dealing close to the same base minus 4 at almost every angle until we started getting less than 45 degrees, or kind of like skating across the sides of the wall, which in my opinion is not going to be how many people are using it. And even then, the reduction wasn't very much. I did the same thing on the MP5 with no FMJ. This one has a higher base damage than the M4 somehow, of 34. However, since it's a lower caliber weapon, when it shoots through the wall, it's significantly weaker at 24, 19, 17, 11, and 7. And that 7 damage at 15 degrees is really, really low. You would have to almost burn a whole mag to kill somebody at that point. When you put FMJ on it, it changes oddly. The base damage, the base damage reduction seems to increase. It's now 27, 26, 24, and then it drops to 18, and then it will eventually drop down to 8 at those sort of narrow degrees, but it's better overall. So punching this into my calculator, what I found is that the approximate formula for the non-FMJ damage of an MP5 is whatever your base damage is minus 10 times the sine of X. And this one I didn't find it necessary to add an angle to the sine of X, and that will approximately give you your wall damage. I do want to point out that these equations are approximations of things that I also have to approximate with human error. They're not perfect by any measure. With FMJ, it somehow had a higher base damage and it dropped off less after the 30 degree point, which is surprising to me. I didn't think that it would be that significant on the MP7, but not MP7, MP5, but it was. Let's take a look at the PKM. You see a pretty similar story here. You've got a base damage. The first couple of degrees don't make a whole lot of difference, and then when you go out to the extremes, it'll go down a little bit. Since this is a higher caliber LMG, it doesn't hurt it quite as much. The PKM with FMJ will deal slightly more base, and I got a really weird result. I consistently got 36 damage at 60 degrees, which should be dealing less damage. unless there is a sort of stair-step function where the sine and cosine stuff don't even take effect until after you're past a certain degree, which I kind of already suspected, and they may have had a typo or coded it slightly wrong. But either way, it's pretty similar to the picture we saw before, and in my opinion, of all the LMGs I looked at, there's very little overall change in damage or penetration damage with or without FMJ, so that kind of isn't what I was expecting. When it comes to shotguns and sniper rifles, they're a lot harder to test, but effectively without FMJ, shotguns have little to no wall penetration at all. I wasn't able to get it to shoot through much of anything. However, when you put FMJ on, you can shoot through walls pretty well. It doesn't do the full, like, awesome base damage through the wall, but it's definitely noticeable. Sniper rifles don't really change much. Their calibers are just so high, it really doesn't matter a whole lot unless you're shooting a super heavy surface or a super weird angle, and that's the next thing we're going to be talking about today is surfaces and angles after we do our Astro promo. Today's Astro promo is a lot less creative than what I wanted because my wife isn't here and I can't film anything except this. It's all stationary camera shots. I can't do neat costumes and things like that. So I'm going to go with a new project a little bit earlier than what I wanted, which is the hair bounty. I have terrible, terrible hair. I have always had bad hair, bad hairstyles, crazy mad scientist stuff going on, and it has never been under control at any point in my entire life. Maybe when I was like 6 years old, I must have insulted a gypsy hairstylist or something and she just gave me the bad hair curse. So I thought it would be fun to let you guys choose my next hair color, and you get to vote by buying Astro headsets. If you buy any of the Astro ID color wave, like these beautiful pink ones right here, the color that you purchase is a vote for whatever color I'm going to turn my hair. If you purchase one of these Astro C40 TR controllers, it's kind of like a wild Uno card. You can just vote however you want. You can tell me whatever color it is. And A50s you can do the same with since they only come in a very limited color selection. Unfortunately, I don't have any access to back-end customer data at Astro, so I can't see your exact orders and colors and SKU numbers and stuff. So what I want you to do is tweet at me, email me, DM me on Discord, something like that. Just show me your completed order with the purchase order number and let me know what color it is or what color you want. I'm going to add it to my own little tally here. I've got my own little spreadsheet ready to go with everything. And at the end of the month or a couple of weeks, we'll probably do end of the month, then I will make my hair whatever color it is that you guys voted for the most. And if you got like really close, like if it was like a 50-50 between blue and pink, I'm just going to split it right down the middle and do both. And it'll be ridiculous and it'll be fun. I just thought this would be sort of a lower effort yet still fun thing that will pay off in a couple of weeks. All right, let's get back to the episode. Well, if you guys want to change my hair color, be sure to use the link down there in the description to get 5% off your Astro purchase and do something terrible to my head. So moving along, there doesn't seem to be a rhyme or reason why some of the surfaces are invulnerable and others are effectively paper. I'm just going to play a couple of examples here. They pretty much explain themselves. FMJ will help most of these, but like the truck can be invulnerable, and the tires, and then like this door is invulnerable, but that door isn't, and this thin piece of concrete just eats bullets, but then the other thin piece of concrete doesn't, and this wall you can shoot through and that wall you can't. I went around and I tried a whole bunch of different things on different maps trying to figure out what in the world was going on, and to be honest, I think it kind of, there's one of two things going on. Either it just applies randomly, or perhaps there are a lot more different surfaces now. In past Call of Duty games, you just had like heavy, medium, and light surfaces, and it was really easy to tell which ones were which. It's possible that in Modern Warfare, there could be whole tons of different surfaces that if they changed the engine, they could have added materials or something. But overall, I found some surprisingly thin and small surfaces to be invulnerable, which wasn't the result I was expecting, especially with FMJ. And now finally, at the end of the episode, I want to talk about why I think FMJ is right properly bugged. FMJ seems to have little to no effect on killing streaks faster, which doesn't make any sense to me because the tooltip says that using FMJ, you're going to kill, it's going to deal more damage against score streaks, right? So what I did is I set up the shield turret, the Wheelson, and the VTOL, and I decided to take it down without FMJ and then take it down with FMJ. and just kind of see like what the difference in shots was, because I already know the base damage of the weapon and stuff like that. And I was utterly shocked that the shots to kill a streak were almost no different with or without FMJ. I did get a difference on the shield turret. That one took only 2/3 as many bullets, but I got the exact same amount of bullets on the Wheelson and only 3 less shots when shooting down the VTOL, which I found to be very, very surprising. So to the best of my ability to tell, FMJ has a very minimal effect on shooting down score streaks, unless private matches are bugged. I even went back when I tested all of this live on Mixer if you guys want to double check my work, but I went back and I checked it to try and make sure that I had actually selected FMJ, because I thought I just derped, that I'd potatoed and left FMJ off, but no, I checked it and it was on and it didn't seem to matter, which means that if you like shooting down streaks and stuff, it doesn't matter if you have FMJ or not for the most part. And my overall opinion of this perk is that in general, I don't think FMJ is worth it unless you really kind of want to wallbang with shotguns or maybe SMGs. FMJ can help you shoot through some surfaces that otherwise you couldn't, but surfaces that are that heavy, typically you're not dealing very much damage on the other side anyway. And on top of that, the surfaces that you can and can't shoot through aren't very predictable, so it's hard for me to say it's worth your 1 gun perk slot for kind of those random corner kills and those random lucky wallbangs, when any weapon that's going to be heavy enough to shoot through those walls will probably do it anyway. And FMJ doesn't seem to help you kill streaks either, so this is one that I am not going to be running on my weapons. Guys, that is all for this episode. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something useful. If you did, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. Drifter out.